They examined her ID with suspicion, questioned whether she truly belonged, and escalated the situation by calling security, unaware they were on the verge of denying service to the very person who held the power to end their careers with a single decision. The idea had lingered in her mind for months, faint at first, easy to ignore, but persistent. Samantha Carter had built Horizon Bank from the ground up. It wasn't just a business, it was her vision, her legacy. She wasn't some detached executive tucked away in a corner office. She had spent years creating a bank that stood for something: fairness, accessibility, trust. But lately, doubt had crept in. Was that vision still intact? Whispers had reached her. Not accusations, but quiet concerns, subtle mentions of how certain customers were treated at specific branches. Stories from friends, offhand remarks from colleagues. She had dismissed them initially, confident in the policies she had written herself. But policies meant nothing without action. Samantha needed more than belief, she needed truth. And the only way to find it was to walk into a branch not as the CEO, but as a customer. Today, she wasn't a power player. She was just another woman in jeans and sneakers, wearing a cardigan instead of a suit. She drove to the Horizon Bank branch in Boise, Idaho, a location she had personally approved and helped inaugurate. She'd given speeches there, shaken hands, celebrated the promise of ethical banking. But now, she entered unannounced, unknown. The sliding doors welcomed her into a sterile lobby filled with the scent of toner and commercial air freshener. It was a quiet afternoon. A few patrons were scattered around, waiting, chatting, being served. A teller at the far end was counting bills. Samantha stepped up to the counter where a young teller, pale-skinned with a tightly pulled ponytail, barely glanced at her before returning to the screen. "Hi, I'd like to make a withdrawal," Samantha said. No greeting. Just a clipboard pushed her way. "Fill this out." She filled in the form, $5,000. A routine amount requiring ID. Nothing more. But once she handed it back, the atmosphere changed. The teller scanned the form, then her ID, and her expression shifted. A quiet judgment settled on her face, uncertain, guarded. Samantha noticed immediately. Something had shifted, and it wasn't about protocol. The teller looked at her again, this time properly, with a flicker of doubt. Samantha had seen that look before. It wasn't about suspicion of fraud, it was about assumption. Assumption of who belonged, and who didn't. Instead of proceeding, the teller set the ID down. "I'll, be right back." With that, she walked away, disappearing behind a door. Samantha sighed, fingers tapping the counter. She'd expected some level of bias, but this was different. And it felt far from over. The door closed behind the teller, and the room seemed to grow heavier. Samantha scanned the lobby. She noticed how others were being treated. The businessmen in line had been greeted warmly, the older woman at another window chatted with ease. There had been no hesitation with them. But with her? Silence, scrutiny, delay. She turned back to the counter, jaw tight, waiting for an explanation that wasn't coming. Not yet. Eventually, the teller re-emerged, this time accompanied by someone new. A stocky man with rimless glasses and a name tag that read, Greg Mitchell. His approach was careful, overly polite, eyes calculating. Samantha recognized the look. He was weighing her before even speaking. "Afternoon, ma'am," he said evenly. "I understand you're requesting a withdrawal." "I am," Samantha replied. $5,000. "Everything's on the form." Greg glanced at the teller, then at the ID she'd returned with. "Mind if I take a quick look at your identification?" "I already gave it to her," Samantha answered coolly. Greg picked it up anyway, held it to the light, studied it longer than necessary. Then he asked, "Miss Carter, is this your first time banking with us?" There it was. Polite on the surface, loaded beneath. Samantha caught it instantly. "I've banked here since this branch opened," she said, voice clipped. Greg nodded slowly, as if digesting information too complex for the situation. And you said the amount is $5,000? Samantha's patience was wearing thin. That's correct. She could sense the shift in the room again. A few people looked over. The tone of the conversation had changed. Greg still didn't seem convinced. And what do you do for work, Miss Carter? A pause. Samantha chuckled once, more in disbelief than humor. I'm in finance. What kind? He pressed. Banking. That made him falter, for just a breath. Then he recovered, pressing on. And this is a personal account, correct? Yes, she said, arms folding across her chest. Still, he didn't back down. Unfortunately, he said, placing the ID on the counter, we're unable to process this withdrawal at this time. Samantha blinked. I'm sorry. We're unable to verify the transaction. You have my ID. You have my account number. What's left to verify? It's just a precaution, he said smoothly. Security protocol. There it was. The catch-all excuse. The word they used when they couldn't say what they really meant. Samantha's fists clenched softly. She wasn't going to walk away. Not now. She wanted to see exactly how far they were willing to take this. She held his gaze. Greg, what exactly needs to be verified? His expression didn't change. Large withdrawals require additional steps. We just need to confirm some details. Like what? She asked, arching an eyebrow. Greg hesitated. The last deposit made to your account. She stared at him. That wasn't standard. She knew the protocols inside and out, she'd written them. This wasn't about procedure. This was a test. And she wasn't going to let it slide. Samantha barely had time to react before Greg did the unthinkable. He reached beneath the counter, pressed a discreet button near the register, and called over security. A uniformed guard, broad-shouldered, hand resting near his belt, stepped out from a back office. His expression was unreadable, but Samantha knew exactly what this looked like. A manager refusing to process a transaction was bad enough. Calling security was escalation. It was a statement. It was intimidation. She took a long, slow breath, forcing herself to remain calm. This wasn't the first time she'd been underestimated by a man in a tailored shirt with a clipboard full of rules. But this time, he had chosen the wrong woman. You're really doing this? She asked, voice even. Greg's expression stayed neutral. We just want to ensure a smooth experience for all our customers. A smooth experience. For everyone but her. The security guard stepped closer. Is there a problem here? He asked, not unkindly. Samantha turned to him, calm as ever. That depends. Are you here to help me access my own money, or just to escort me out of the building? The guard hesitated, glancing at Greg, who gave a tight nod. Samantha gave a small, disbelieving laugh. Wow. So this is what we're doing. Greg sighed like he was the one being inconvenienced. Miss Carter, if you'd like to return with additional documentation, we'd be happy to assist you. But right now, we can't. She cut him off. You know what's funny, Greg? I watched you process that man's transaction 10 minutes ago. No verification. No questions. No security. Just a smile and a receipt. Greg's jaw clenched. I wonder what's different about me. Silence spread like a stain. The teller looked down. The guard shifted his stance. The air turned heavy. I'm sorry you feel that way, Miss Carter, Greg said, voice taut, but our policies are in place for a reason. Samantha didn't answer. Not with words. She calmly reached into her bag. Greg stiffened. The guard's hand inched toward his belt. She pulled out her phone and started recording. A few customers looked over, sensing something was happening. Greg's voice cracked with urgency. Miss Carter, I just want to get this on record, she said clearly, the camera pointed at his face. You're refusing to allow me access to my own bank account. despite my government-issued ID, while other customers walk out with their money unchecked. That about right? Greg didn't answer. His face tightened, lips a firm line. She angled the camera toward the guard. And you were called for what, exactly? A customer trying to make a withdrawal? The guard opened his mouth, closed it again. He looked at Greg, uncomfortable now. Then Greg made his final mistake that he reached out, not to grab her or stop the recording, but to snatch her ID off the counter. That simple gesture, entitled, petty, controlling, was the moment the temperature in the room shifted. Customers who'd been pretending not to notice were now staring. One of them pulled out their own phone. Samantha didn't flinch. She ended the recording, slid her ID back into her wallet, and picked up her bag. You've made your choice, she said softly, eyes steady on Greg. Now I'll make mine. She turned and walked out of the bank. The moment she got into her car, her phone buzzed, a notification from the cloud. The video had already been backed up. Just in case, she didn't call her lawyer, she didn't call the press, she called her chief operating officer, Janice. She said the moment the call connected, pull the security footage from the Boise branch. Today. Flag it for legal, and send it directly to me. A pause. No. We're not filing anything, yet. But I want an emergency board session tomorrow. Every department head. And have PR on standby. The next morning, the video had already leaked, not hers, but a blurry 30-second clip from a customer who'd been watching. It was posted anonymously with the caption, CEO of Horizon Bank denied service at her own branch. It spread like wildfire. By the time Samantha arrived at Horizon's downtown headquarters, emails were flying. Internal memos. Legal alerts. Communication scrambling for talking points, but Samantha didn't care about spin. She wasn't interested in apologies drafted by crisis managers. She wanted accountability. In the boardroom, a tense silence settled as everyone waited for her to speak. One executive finally broke it. Do we want to start drafting a statement? Samantha looked up from her notes, her expression calm but razor-sharp. No, she said. We prepare a reckoning. Samantha Carter didn't walk into Horizon Bank to make a statement. She walked in to make a withdrawal. Simple. Routine. The kind of errand that should take 5 minutes, 10 tops, but before her sneakers even crossed the lobby's polished tile, she felt it. The shift. The scrutiny. The too long glance from the security guard. The way the teller's smile faltered when she stepped forward. The subtle tightening of shoulders. She knew that look, an invisible calculation that people like her were all too familiar with. Hi, Samantha said, placing her ID and account card on the counter. I'd like to make a withdrawal. The teller glanced at the name on the card, Samantha Carter, and then up at Samantha, eyes narrowing slightly. One moment, ma'am, she said, tapping at her keyboard. It was supposed to be routine. But it wasn't. Not today, I'm sorry, the teller said, voice brittle. There's a note on your account. I'll need a manager. Samantha raised an eyebrow. A note? The teller didn't answer. Instead, she turned and waved over a man in a gray blazer, mid-40s, slick haircut, manager badge gleaming like a sheriff's star. He walked over with the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'm Greg. I'm the branch manager, he said. There seems to be a discrepancy with your ID. Do you have another form of identification? Samantha blinked. The ID matches the name on the account. Yes, Greg said quickly. But we take security very seriously. Sometimes additional verification is required. You understand? She did. All too well. Samantha pulled out her phone and calmly began recording. Greg's smile twitched. I'm sorry, is there a problem? There will be, she said, if you keep pretending I'm the problem. Greg didn't like that. His jaw tightened. Ma'am, if you don't have another form of identification, I do, Samantha said, retrieving a second card, one even more official than the first, and placing it next to the first. Greg looked down, paused. Then his expression flickered. Just for a second. But it was there, the realization, the gut drop, the oh no of it all. He didn't move to pick up the card. Samantha did that for him. "I think it's time I properly introduced myself," she said, her voice quiet but unmistakably firm. She held the card up, tapping her finger against the name, Samantha Carter, founder and CEO, Horizon Bank. The lobby stilled. The air thickened. The security guard shifted uncomfortably. The teller stopped typing, hands frozen mid-keystroke. "I built this bank," Samantha said. "From the ground up. I approved this branch. And I personally signed the hiring budget that got you this job." Greg's mouth opened. Closed. He looked like he'd just been punched in the chest. "Miss Carter, I didn't realize, you didn't care to," she replied, slipping both cards back into her bag. "That's the problem." Greg tried to recover. "Let me process that withdrawal for you right away." "No, Greg." That moment passed. Her voice sharpened. "You questioned my ID, doubted my name, called security. And now, suddenly, I'm credible? Because I fit a title you didn't expect me to have?" The guard took a slow step back. The teller looked like she wanted to vanish. The customers who had pretended not to eavesdrop were fully tuned in now. "I came here as a regular customer," Samantha said. "To see how people are treated when they don't walk in wearing a title. And you failed that test." Greg stammered. I sincerely apologize," Samantha cut him off with a raised hand. "Don't. You're not sorry for how you treated me. You're sorry you found out who I am. There's a difference." She turned to the security guard. "You were called to escort me out?" "Yes, ma'am," he said, sheepish now. "I was told there was a potential issue." "And now?" The guard hesitated. "I don't see one." "Good," she said. Then she looked at the teller. "You saw my ID. You had my name. My account. And you still chose to believe something was wrong. Ask yourself why." The teller's voice was barely above a whisper. I was just following protocol." "No," Samantha said. "You were following bias. And that's a very different thing." She reached into her bag and slid a card across the counter to Greg. "You'll call my office. You'll explain exactly what happened. And you'll sit down with corporate to review the footage I just recorded. Because this isn't going away." Greg's hands trembled as he picked up the card. "Yes, ma'am. Of course." She gave the lobby one last look. "Let me be very clear, this is the last time something like this happens in my bank." The silence was absolute. Samantha turned to leave. But at the door, she stopped and looked back. "I built this place to serve everyone. And if I, the CEO, can be treated like I don't belong, then how are we treating the people who can't record the moment? Who don't have the power to fight back?" She paused, eyes sweeping the room. "There will be changes," she said, calm as ever. "Real ones." And then she left. The fallout came fast. An emergency corporate meeting was called the next morning. Greg was gone before lunch. Horizon Bank rolled out new accountability protocols, retrained every employee, and created anonymous reporting channels for customers. Samantha didn't stop until she'd rewritten the entire service model, because policies are just paper. Change is action. And respect? That has to be earned every day. She had walked in to make a withdrawal. But what she pulled out instead was something much bigger. A reckoning.